Give me 1 second, please. I'm sorting the rest of this out. I got everything uploaded for the most part. I was really trying to get something good here. All right. No. For this time of day, do I want a little more? No. Nah. That'll work. Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm very sorry I haven't done much lately. I've just been busy with some other things, and on top of that, I will be starting a new job here within the coming days that will take up some more of my time, and it will take up some more of my time at hours that maybe I won't be able to watch some of the games. I will do my best, but I've not worked for a month, and it's starting to drive me a little bit nuts. So I'm ready to go back to having a routine where I work and do things like that. So this is not going to be a really long show. We're just going to talk about Game 4, and I will try to do Landfall Hour for Game 5 in the future. Like I said, it depends on what happens with when I start my new job, even though it's a temporary job, but it's one I'm going to be doing for a couple of months, and the hours for it are not going to be very hockey-friendly, unfortunately, but, I like to eat. I like for my dogs to be able to eat and for my girlfriend to be able to eat and us have a roof over our heads. So beggars can't be choosers in a situation like that. But we will get to this in a moment. We do have one comment from All Canes Network. What's up, dude? This is a really good guy. I've met him a couple of times. He's really awesome. All right, let's see here. All right, so I will have to take a short break at one point during this just to fix one thing in the slides and then re-upload them. And then we will finish the rest of the show from there. Levy Littell, what's up, dude? Good evening, man. 3-1 feels good, doesn't it? Especially when Florida and Toronto are carrying their players out on stretchers. Yeah, I think that the longer that series goes on, the better for Carolina. Now, like all statistical factors point to Carolina winning this series in 5 or 6 games, but the job is not done. There is a lot more to they're going to have a really hard game in Game 5. I think Carolina is going to close it out, but it's going to be close. I wouldn't be surprised if they have to win it in overtime. But Washington did look pretty defeated when they were walking down the tunnel earlier, and it kind of it's one of those things that, like, don't count your chickens before they hatch, as I like to say, as many others have like to said. The job is not done. I'm confident that they're going to get things finished in Washington, but until it's done, it's not done. And then we all know how that team plays, particularly people who are total and complete douchebags like Tom Wilton. I'm not going to be surprised if he goes out there and tries to injure somebody. There are people that say that he doesn't go out there and intentionally try to injure people. He just walks the line, plays the game hard. No, that's bullshit. Multiple occasions in his career that he's intentionally tried to injure people, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he does in the first shift to try and even things up, because that's the only way it's going to be even. Washington's getting totally outplayed right now. The only game that they didn't get outplayed was Game 2. They've had sequences where they were the better team, but overall, Carolina has been better, and for once, it's been reflected on the scoreboard for us, which is nice, because there's been plenty of occasions where we didn't get that. Yeah, big Caniac Tom will fuck him. He's such a douchebag. Scott Thomas says, what's up, Brandon? Canes are finishing it in Washington. I hope so. I want to get the series over with before something bad happens, because, like I said, I'm expecting Carolina to win it. I thought it was going to take 7 for Carolina to win it, but that split at home, or that split on the road for them, paid dividends already. So if they can manage to just go ahead and win Game 5 and put it away, they got to play Game 5 the exact same way they played Game 1, and then they'll end the series. Anything short of that will not work against the Caps in their building. And like I said, they're going to ramp up the physicality. I'm expecting Tom Wilson to fucking take a run at somebody and lay a headshot on someone. I know it's coming. Like, it's coming. Big Caniac Tom Wilson. Mocking the Storm Surge while down 2-0 was a choice. Yeah, and that guy just, anytime that they start losing, he has a fucking mental meltdown every time. And, goes out and starts trying to do shit like that to get under their skin. And I'm like, Mocking our... the funny thing about it is the Storm Surge was mostly Justin Williams' idea, and Justin Williams and Tom Wilson, as far as I know, are friends from when Justin Williams played in Washington. So, good job. But, if he wasn't good at hockey, he'd probably be pumping gas. Let's just be real about it. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and get into this here. Plenty of time to read the Don't Sue Me slide. All right. So Final score here, Carolina won this game 5-2. Expected goals 3.39 to 2.63. Expected goals 5-on-5. Washington had a slight edge of 2.09 to 2.00. They were 1 for 5 on the power play and needed a 5-on-3 for Alex Ovechkin to score. As far as I know, every goal that Alex Ovechkin has scored in Lenovo this year, I think, have all been on 5-on-3s. Don't quote me on that. I'm strictly going off of memory. I think so. If anybody in the comments wants to look and see, please tell me. I'm pretty sure that's the only way he's actually scored in Lenovo this season. No shorthanded goals to report, 5-on-5 goals. That says 4-1, but basically make that 3-1. I counted the empty netter in that. Shots on goal, I accidentally put that in backwards. It should be 38 and 21. Shot attempts for Carolina were 73. Washington was 54. Carolina got absolutely dominated in the faceoff dot. I would prefer that not happen in the next game. They were able to overcome it in this one, but that's one of those things that they need to clean that up before game 5, especially on the road when you don't have last change. They had a 39.7 faceoff percentage to Washington having a 60.3. One thing I'm going to talk about a little bit more later, one of the things that saved Carolina after those faceoffs, because that's incredibly lopsided. If it's 51-49, I can care less. If Carolina's got a 49% faceoff percentage in a game, or 48 or 47, somewhere along those lines, it doesn't really bother me because of how good they are at forechecking and getting the puck back, how well they execute defense in their own zone, all that type of stuff. They did excellent at getting the puck back when they would lose it off of faceoffs over this entire game. Otherwise, the score is not like this. That being said, that will not work so easily on the road when you don't have last change. And I'm hoping Jankowski Roslovic has played great at home. Not denying that. But Jankowski will be a much more valuable asset in an away game, and I hope that he's good to go by game 5, and that gives us a much better chance of putting this away in the event that Mark Jankowski is ready to play. Penalty minutes, Carolina had 12, Washington had 8. All right, so first period summary here. Washington came out, they made an early push. They really did. They were trying their best to try and even the series because they didn't want to go back to DC down 3-1. Carolina was kind of flat to begin with. Carolina was kind of flat to begin with in this game. I was not really worried about it. Freddie was locked in. Where they really started to push back right here at the 11:49 to 9:35 mark. The reason that I want to highlight this, when I was taking my notes while I was watching the game and I double checked stuff on the play-by-play summary, that Carolina, there was a critical icing call made at the 9:35 mark, and then after that, that's when Carolina really started to take over the offensive zone and sustain pressure there, and that eventually led to that goal by Shane Gostisbehere from Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Eric Robinson. Without that sustained offensive zone pressure, I don't think that goal happens. Give me 1 second, guys. I've got an issue with the settings here. Okay, nope, it's working just fine. All right. I finally disabled my webcam mic. I figured out how to do it because it kept wanting to switch off of my good one over to that one, and that's why it sounded like I had my head in a fishbowl, and I'm not talking about the ones made by CCM and Bauer. Gostisbehere, what was really impressive about that goal to me, and this is something I want to do a breakdown on at some point or another, at least I'm going to make a post elaborating on it and everything like that. When he got possession of the puck at the blue line, covering that much ice without making a single crossover is a testament to how good Shane Gostisbehere's edge work is. Most players have to do crossovers to cover that much ice that quickly, but he did it with a bunch of short, choppy steps and got himself into position. Another cool thing about that goal that I'm going to talk about and break it down a little bit more is how much I really, really liked the fact that he waited until I believe it was Jackson Blake that circled behind him and everything before he took the shot. You already had a bit of a screen going on in front thanks to KK, but at that point, Duhaime, when he's trying to defend against Gostisbehere, he's sitting there thinking, is he going to drop this puck or is he going to shoot it? And Gostisbehere picked a perfect time to shoot it when Duhaime had to make a decision between trying to cover that drop pass or stay on Gostisbehere if he decided to shoot the puck. Ghost could not have shot that puck at a more ideal moment. So very underrated, high skill goal, if you ask me. So then we go on 7:40. We had a penalty. Seth Jarvis got a roughing call against Matt Roy after a scrum. I was kind of like, okay, whatever on that call. I don't see how we come out of that with the only penalty, but all right. The Canes penalty kill, it remained excellent. Washington only recorded 1 shot on goal and 1 other shot attempt. Even with a critical penalty killer in the box, Jarvis is a top 4 penalty killer as far as forwards are concerned on the Canes. And I would say a top 6. And overall, if you're talking even factoring in the defenseman, Jarvis got a shorthanded chance coming out of the box. I thought he was going to bury that for a second. I really did. Then 336 comes around, and this is where we enter our first really game-critical special team situation, even though the first, they had already killed off one penalty. You comfy? My dog's a head case. Jordan Martin got a double minor high sticking penalty against Jacob Chikrin. He did draw some blood. So we go on to the next slide here. So this penalty, the 336, Carolina did ultimately kill it off. 24 seconds of it ran over into the third period, but they were really, really good during this entire kill. Washington didn't get much at all. And that's the thing I've talked about in the past with Carolina's penalty kill. It's not just a game-saving thing for them. It's not just a, let's take a breath. We were a man down or two men down for however long and managed to get out of it. It's a momentum changer for the Canes. Other teams, I think at times they actually dread getting power plays because of how good our penalty kill is. And I think it actually kills their momentum in certain situations when things go back to 5-on-5. And I feel that this game, it was kind of the same thing. Part of that is reflected in the fact that during this penalty kill, Jarvis made an excellent play here. He took a hit from Ovechkin early in the penalty kill, clears the puck out after the initial draw. The Hurricanes do a good job of entry denial and generate shorthanded chances where Orlov and Robinson both generated shots on goal. Aho looked excellent during this kill. I know Aho's not putting up as many points as a lot of people would like for him to, but I am very, very impressed with how I've always been impressed with his 200-foot game. The most viewed video I have on YouTube is about how impressed I am with Sebastian Aho's 200-foot game. And I felt like that he took it to another level last night, especially on the penalty kill. So Seth Jarvis then scores from Sebastian Aho and Dmitry Orlov. That would be the second goal of the game. We'll talk about that when we get to the goal summary and breakdown. Short version of it is that's why you drive the middle of the ice. That's why you go and you crash the net, because you never know how juicy of a rebound, how good of an opportunity you're going to get. Yeah, it gets frustrating when you don't bury a bunch of them after a while, as the Canes have dealt with in the past. But, you know, sometimes you do get a bounce, as they say. Thank you, Rod Brindamore. All right, so 18:55 to 10:46, Carolina spends more time in the offensive zone. Great job of preventing Washington from exiting. This is another thing that I've talked about extensively. Washington has a hard time getting the puck back sometimes in their defensive zone. Once they do get it back, they're really good at exiting. That's what guys like Chikrin and Carlson in particular are very good at. If you can stop Washington from getting clean zone exits, you kill 90% of their offense per game that they could potentially generate. So the Caps started to press back. They started managing the puck well in Carolina's defensive zone and maintaining pressure through physicality while getting the majority of shot attempts over the course of the next few minutes. Now, again, this also goes back to Carolina versus almost any other competitive team. Shot volume versus chance quality. Washington is a team that they play man-on-man defense, but everything they do inside of the offensive blue line is a lot different than what Carolina does. They try to get to the interior. They try to generate quality chances. There's certain guys that they want shooting the puck more than others, whereas with Carolina, it doesn't matter who shoots the damn puck in a lot of situations. They want to get it to the Ovechkins and the Stromes and the Wilsons of the world, whereas Carolina will take shots from wherever they can get it. And Washington, over the course of time here, was doing a pretty damn good job of maintaining the offensive zone, but not just throwing pucks on net and generating a few quality shots. Frederick Anderson did well. The defense did a good job of taking away higher quality chances, taking away the middle of the ice as much as they could. And Washington didn't get nearly as many shots as they potentially could have. So 2:23, Alex Ovechkin takes a tripping call against Jacob Slavin, but there's a small parade to the penalty box from there. Right after that, or literally 2 seconds later, after the whistle blows, you have Dylan Strome roughing on William Carrier roughing on John Carlson. I didn't really understand the matching minors there, or why you even bothered to take any of those guys. I think that just shouldn't have been the case. But anyway, conventional 5-on-4 power play goes from here. Hurricanes generate a few chances. Power play one looks a little bit better than as of late. In the past few games, there's been times where they've been a little bit too stagnant. They're not moving enough. They're cycling the puck, but not moving their feet and kind of being kept on the outside and not working to the interior of the ice. That looked a little bit better to me, particularly on this power play and their last power play of the game, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. I thought that those things did look a little bit better, but still not getting it there. If the power play can really, really get going, we're going to be in really good shape, because 5-on-5, we're in good shape. Penalty killing, we're in good shape. Just need a little bit more out of the power play. If we can even just get above 20% in any given series of any team we could potentially face in the future, then I think that they'll be in good shape to really, really finish off this series and have a good showing in the conference finals. All right, so we go on to the third period here. This was the highest activity third period, or I'm sorry, the highest activity period, the highest event period of this entire game. Hurricanes started to take over. It appears to be highest speed period played in the last two games, I would say. Both teams are kind of feeling the desperation at this point. Carolina knows that they've got a lead they got to protect. They want to close this out and take a 3-1 lead. And you go from having a soft stranglehold of having a 2-1 lead going into game 4 to having a pretty good stranglehold of a 3-1 game, even though you're going back to Washington. But they got to win 3. Carolina only has to win 1. Everybody knows that going into this. So Jacob Chikrin eventually scored from Matt Roy and Pierre-Luc Dubois. We'll talk about that more in the goal summary. That was just kind of a bad breakdown, but all the credit to Matt Roy for having the patience he had with that puck before he made the pass to Jacob Chikrin. Additionally, he did a really good job keeping the puck in. That's one of those times where the Hurricanes really needed to get out, and they just didn't. Several guys, Stankoven and Roslovic, both failed to clear the puck when they really should have. So the Capitals were dominant in the faceoff circle. That's reflected in the numbers, but this is the point in the game where I felt like it was really kind of maybe starting to tip the scales a little bit in their favor. Ultimately, Carolina didn't cave thanks to that. The Canes have the good puck pursuit, and they defend well, so that made up for them not being very good in the faceoffs. If you're in a really offensive team like Washington is in a lot of situations, you need faceoffs for the sake of having possession of the puck and not letting the other team have it. And what I mean by that is, if Carolina is not dominating in the faceoff circle, they're good at getting the puck back because of the forechecking, because of the entry denial, because of the zone defense. Washington doesn't have all that. So them having possession of the puck off the draw is in some ways a little bit more valuable to them, especially if you're talking about having faceoffs on the offensive side of the red line. A very uncharacteristic Hurricanes goal. Taylor Hall gets to the offensive blue line. Great pass from Jack Roslovic after a great defensive zone puck retrieval by Sean Walker. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. The Canes wrapped up the physicality. Between 11:36 and 8:46, they recorded the majority of the hits. Taylor Hall then took a penalty for tripping against Nick Dowd. Hurricane, the penalty kill during this short 5-on-4 sequence before the next penalty was called only allowed one shot on goal, and it wasn't a very good one. Penalty at 8:03, Dmitry Orlov interference against Tom Wilson. So out of all the penalties that were called last night, this is the only one that I'm kind of like, okay, what the hell? The other ones I was totally cool with every penalty that they called in that game, except this one. The Jarvis one, I was kind of, okay, I can kind of see it, but this one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I personally thought that was incidental contact. Orlov's trying to deny entry and gap up on people at the blue line like he's supposed to. Wilson is trying to gain entry like he's supposed to because he's on the power play and he's trying to get in the offensive zone. That just looked to me like two really big guys colliding with each other. I don't think that should have been called. And that has nothing to do with me being a Hurricanes fan. That has to do with Tom Wilson is skating really fast. Dmitry Orlov's trying to gap up and match him and everything. I understand the puck is nowhere nearby. So if you're going to call anything, interference is the thing to be called there. But I think that was two guys that were just trying to get to a certain place and they collided. I think that shouldn't have been called. 7:46, Alex Ovechkin from Dylan Strome and Jacob Chikrin on the 5-on-3. That was a patented Ovechkin goal. Dylan Strome made a really good seam pass to get to that. We'll get to that in the goal summary. 7:46 to 6:03 with the remaining 117 of power play time that Washington had. The Canes responded to that 5-on-3 goal really well. They have another excellent kill, limit Washington to one shot on goal, 2 shot attempts, and sustain a decent amount of offensive zone time despite being shorthanded. Pierre-Luc Dubois then shortly after that at 5:34 took a penalty for holding against Jack Roslovic. Nothing comes of the next Canes power play, but at 3:15 remaining, Sean Walker from Taylor Hall. We're going to talk about that goal a lot because I feel like that was really critical. All right, so the scoring summary here. I didn't get the chance to finish the second slide. I'll show that to you guys real quick, but we'll still talk about those goals and everything. But the ones that were really important that ultimately made the mathematical difference that we've got here. J-Dub, I saw that. Thank you very much, bud. So first goal at 10:24 remaining of the first period, you have Shane Goss, a spare from Jesperi Kokaniemi, Eric Robinson. Sustained offensive zone pressure, sustained offensive zone pressure, sustained offensive zone pressure. Carolina made the most of that in a lot of situations, this being one of them. Robinson made the zone entry. He made a drop pass to Kokaniemi. He briefly mishandled it, but he got it back. The kid's got some reach. I understand he skates like a newborn giraffe, but there's a lot of shit he does really well. Dropped it back to Gossespierre, and he made that was a crazy individual effort that he made. One, to use every ounce of space he had. That puck was an inch away from being out, held onto it on the blue line until he found the perfect time to shoot. And like I said, really impressive to not make a single crossover or a single full forward stride and cover that much ice that quickly. I want to do a breakdown of that because parents, if you're watching this and your kids are playing, that's one of those videos that you show them, whether they play forward or defense, doesn't matter, that you show them to be like, hey, this is what you kind of want to try and get your edge work to be if you want to be a good skater, because that was really impressive to me. Most players have to execute a couple of crossovers to cover that much ice that quickly, or they have to go into a full forward stride or a full backward stride with C cuts. Ghost didn't have to do any of that. That was all straight up lateral edge work, and it was really impressive. Again, like I was talking about before, he could not have picked a better moment to shoot that puck because Duhaime didn't know where that shot was going to come from. He didn't know if Ghost was going to shoot the puck or if he was going to drop it to who I believe was Jackson Blake that was circling behind him to cover the point with Ghost starting to walk it into the offensive zone. So we don't have another goal until the second 105. Seth Jarvis from Sebastian Aho and Dmitry Orlov score 5-on-5 right after shortly after the penalty expires. Orlov makes an outlet pass, finds Sebastian Aho quickly. He goes through the neutral zone, and Aho takes that moment to be patient with the puck that one point in time he didn't do. He's always been patient with it in a lot of situations like that, but now he's taking that extra split second to identify, is this a good opportunity to pass or is this a good opportunity to shoot? He's a very selfless player, and sometimes that can be detrimental. In this situation, he was selfish. He shot the puck, and it paid off. So initial wrist shot, it goes off the crossbar. Jarvis drives the middle of the ice, and he buries it. And one of the cool things about that is that was kind of an unconventional rebound, but if Aho continues to do stuff like that in situations, shooting the puck is not always about you putting it in the net yourself. It's about creating opportunities for other guys to score. And someone like Seth Jarvis, who has a finishing touch and can be in the right place at the right time and get there very quickly, if you get a little bit more of that selfishness out of Aho, then you're talking about, and then not to mention, I have a feeling we're going to have a really good offseason. If you get a little bit more of that selfishness out of Aho, you're talking about him potentially being a 100-point player. His best season, in my opinion, albeit marginally better than the one he had last year, his best season was the abbreviated 2019-2020 season, if you ask me. He was 2 goals away from 40 when the stoppage happened. I would love to see him shoot the puck a little bit more in situations like that is why. When he takes that extra second to hold on to it and load that shot up of his, it results in things like that. He doesn't have to be the one who puts it in the net himself. But I think this team ultimately benefits more when he shoots more. And that's not to say that he needs to shoot to the degree that you expect out of someone like Andrei Svechnikov or even Seth Jarvis. But it looks like now that I've always said that I didn't think Aho and Svechnikov had a lot of chemistry. Lately, it looks like they found it. So maybe you're onto something there. I'm interested to see what the future of this team looks like. I had my doubts about Svechnikov being here next year, but the way that he's played in the playoffs, I think that whatever it was, mentally, physically, whatever it was that was bugging him, I think he's past it. I really do. I've been incredibly impressed with his game lately. Not to mention he's hit like 9 posts. Maybe it's more like 7. I don't know, but it's a lot. So Washington gets their first goal of the game at 5:18 in the third period from Jacob Chikrin from Matt Roy and Pierre-Luc Dubois. This is their first goal, also another 5-on-5 goal. The Canes failed to clear it, like I was talking about. Matt Roy made this goal happen, and it was actually a pretty impressive play. keeps it in at the point, does a quick little give and go pass to Pierre-Luc Dubois, goes down, gets the puck back from Dubois, and he holds on to it. He takes his time with it, walks it close to the goal line, waits for Chychrun to get in a perfect scoring position. Seam passes it, and Chychrun buries it. Now, if Freddie could have gotten across, maybe he's able to make that save. It's not very likely. Shane Gostisbehere tried to do what a good defenseman does in that situation. He left his feet trying to take away that passing lane, and in that process, he ran into Freddie Anderson and kind of, stopped him from being able to move from where he was. Matt Roy created a really good scoring opportunity there for Jacob Chychrun to finish. Gostisbehere did what you do in that situation 99% of the time and come out ahead. It just didn't work out well for him. It just didn't work out well for him in that particular situation. But 90% of the time, that is what you're supposed to do, and you will get rewarded for it. Matt Roy made a really good play. Jacob Chychrun got the goal, but Matt Roy did all the work. So at 8:24, this is the least Carolina Hurricanes goal that I have seen in a long time. Taylor Hall is at the offensive blue line, and actually, I'm going to pull this comment up right here. I just saw it out of the corner of my eye because it's relevant to what we're about to talk about. Dylan Bollinger says, finally got your Walker and Slavin pairing. Does that go into Game 5? I love that until I remember that put Burns with anyone else other than Slavin. Haha. So at this point, it was getting to the point where things were, you're late in the third period, so maybe Walker's pulling a few more minutes than what he normally does. Burns, even though I think he's played pretty well lately, Burns cannot be with anybody other than Slavin, unless you're going to mix the pairs up and have two righties together, and maybe you can put him with Walker, or maybe you can put him with Chatfield and be fine. Burns can't be with anybody other than Slavin, though, if you want to maintain 3 right and 3 left. Now, if you get late in the game and you have Burns sit and have Walker take some shifts with Slavin, as occurred on this goal, I think that that's kind of what happened here. I need to look at the shift chart to tell you for sure if anybody in the comment wants to go look. But I really felt like Sean Walker was out there a lot more in the third period. And Sean Walker is someone we're going to be talking about a lot over the course of the rest of the scoring summary. I think that the case of him being with Slavin next season is being made, and it's being made very, very strong. After the way he played last night, I felt like he's played well all year. He's probably been our most underrated player. And that game last night, I think, shows what he can do when he's not concerned with being the safety valve, when he's concerned to being the guy who's driving the puck possession and the offense. Completely different animal. All right. So Sean Walker made an excellent defensive zone puck retrieval after Slavin denied entry. Slavin stepped up and denied entry and forced the dump in. Sean Walker's got some wheels. He's probably the best skater on the team now other than Stankoven. He goes in there, gets the puck, and he gets there early enough to where he has plenty of time to decide what he wants to do with it. And he makes the smart play. He passes it to Jack Roslovic, who's open, has plenty of time and space, sends it to him up the boards. And then Taylor Hall's all the way at the offensive blue line already. I think part of the reason that works so well is because teams do not remotely expect us to do things like, or expect the Canes to do things like that. They don't expect someone to be that far ahead, cheating defensively that much to try and get a breakaway. So when it does happen, which is very rare, they're not prepared for it. Taylor Hall has done stuff like that his entire career, but he's fit in and adapted so well and bought in so well in Carolina. He saved it for a very critical time. And I think that he did a really good job waiting for that moment like he did. Roslovic sends the puck to him at the offensive blue line, and he scores on a breakaway. I am really glad it was him and not Aho, because we all know that meme. I was very, very, very impressed with that sequence by all of them, but especially Sean Walker. Brent Burns used to make plays like the one Sean Walker made all the time. And it's nothing against Brent Burns. If there is one player that I could throw into into like, the Lazarus pit in Batman, if we could give Brent Burns that, like put it in a fucking water bottle for him and tell him to drink it, and he de-ages by 10 years, I'd sign the guy for 8 years right now. But unfortunately, that's not real life. But the play that Sean Walker made last night, Brent Burns used to make plays like that all the time. And it's not that he's not capable. It's just, dude's 40 years old. He's still playing in the NHL. Impressive enough on its own. But that's something you could potentially have in the future there with Walker and Slavin. That pair, I really want to see it get sustained action, more so next season. I was really, really happy with how they executed that goal. You don't have to cheat defensively all the time. But when I made that post that generated a lot of controversy about Rob, this was one of the things I was talking about. There are times where you need to say, fuck the man-on-man defense. I'm going to find open ice, and I'm going to put this puck in the net. Taylor Hall picked a good time to do that. And that was the goal that ultimately, I think, that was ultimately the dagger for this game as it turned out being. But that doesn't happen if Taylor Hall is overcommittal to defense in that situation. He did what he had to do as far as creating time and space and cheating defensively, but he did it at the right time. That's something that you can only do in very select situations, and things work out. Taylor Hall did a really good job with that. So going on to the rest of the scoring summary here. The 5-on-3 goal, Alex Ovechkin from Dylan Strome and Jacob Chikrin. Caps take advantage of the 5-on-3. Dylan Strome made a perfect seam pass to Ovechkin for the one-timer. That reminds me, I have something else from the comments here I want to pull up, and I'm going to get to all your comments because I got plenty of time tonight. All Canes Network says Ovi might have scored a 5-on-5 goal in their first meeting at Lenovo. He says, nope, that was 5-on-3. I don't think he scored a goal in Lenovo this season that was not 5-on-3. The best of my recollection, and that was just with me going off of memory, that I didn't think that he scored a single goal other than 5-on-3 in Lenovo this year. And I'm trying to remember if he scored against us in Washington, because I was there for both games, but I don't remember him scoring in either one of them. I could be wrong, but I don't remember him scoring in either game. J-Dub says, what up? Hey, dude, good to see you. Megan Schuin says that double minor PK was absolutely fantastic from the Canes. Yes, that was where I felt like Carolina really, really took over that game. They started to take over it in the sequences that led up to Gostisbehere scoring. But I feel like that they really put their boot on Washington's neck with that double minor penalty kill. Because you have 4 minutes, you have the greatest power play asset of all time out there for all of it, and you don't score a single goal. That's got to be demoralizing. Levy Leto says, I don't blame anyone for that Jarvis penalty. No other refs would call it, and it would be important to set the tone. These refs did, but the standard was held the whole night, so it's cool. Yeah, like I said, I didn't have much of a problem with the officiating last night at all. The only one that I just outright didn't understand or that I didn't agree with, I understand it, but I don't agree with it, was the Orlov one. I thought that was just two guys going for the same area, and it just ended badly. If Orlov had reached out, used a free hand, or thrown the stick up or something like that, like blatantly, then I understand that call. But I thought it was just two guys going to the same place and colliding. That's why I thought that was incidental contact. Travis C says, I didn't get a notification that you were on. Strange. What's up, boys? Yeah, YouTube is really bad about that. That's part of the reason why I stream on X now, too. Even if you have the notifications on, a lot of times it won't work, because I've had people that I know, like in my personal life, that have told me that they didn't know I was streaming. And normally I don't get a whole lot of viewership on YouTube. I've been getting a ton of viewership on X, though. And I think that's just the way the algorithm works. The algorithm rewards clickbait and stupid looking thumbnails with like a bunch of arrows and titles that are like, you'll never believe this. They hate this. They like this. I'm not going to resort to that. I'm going to build my audience organically, no matter how long it takes me. Levy Leto says, would be important if the refs weren't so strict. That is. Yeah, that I like I said, that game was pretty well officiated, minus the Orlov penalty. I just didn't get that one. Levy also says, our PK is so good, our guys can play aggressive without fear of taking an accidental penalty. That's big. Yes, that's really good. I'll get to the rest of the comments here in a little bit. We'll finish up talking about these goals here. All right, so Sean Walker from Taylor Hall. So the Canes got some good luck here. Give me 1 second, guys. I need to do something real quick. All right, guys, I'm back. All right, so the goal that ultimately really was the dagger here, Sean Walker from Taylor Hall. Walker gapped up on Pierre-Luc Dubois, was trying to pin him up against the boards to take the puck away from him there. Rasmus Sandin comes and drifts in, and Canes get a little bit of luck here. The Sandin's stick got stuck in between the boards. I heard a lot of people making stupid-ass comments about, oh, well, poverty rink in Carolina, look at that, the board's fucking coming apart and all this shit. Anybody who's ever played at any ice rink anywhere knows that that does happen sometimes. Like, even on NHL rinks, it's just a thing because those boards, guys are like hitting each other into them all night, and you expect that at no point that there might be enough separation to get a stick plate in there. So that can happen anywhere. I'm just going to put that to bed right now before anybody thinks that the NHL arenas are like perfect when compared to your local rink Zamboni door that looks like absolute slush down below or down like where it opens at and everything. That can happen anywhere. I would say it's more likely to happen on an NHL rink because of everybody hitting each other and dudes running into the boards and all kinds of other shit. So I'll just go ahead and put that to bed now. So Sandin's got stuck in there. Taylor Hall gets possession of the puck, reaches behind him, throws it ahead to Walker. Him, Kokoniemi, Robinson all drive the middle of the ice. Walker, instead of just shooting the puck or making a ill-advised pass, holds up, cuts to the middle, baits Chikrin a little bit, shoots, scores with a wrister. Andrei Svechnikov gets a empty net goal at 17:39 from Jordan Stahl and Jordan Martinook, and that is it for that. And that's the name of that tune. All right, let me go to the rest of the comments here. I got to back up. J-Dub says, please hit the thumbs up. It's free and it really helps the channel. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that, guys. As far as like y'all not getting notifications, here's one thing I'll try and do. Using the community tab on YouTube, I need to be better about posting when I'm going to be doing stuff, for one thing. YouTube's algorithm does not reward people who try to build their audiences organically. So it's good to follow me on X because I post stuff there a lot more. If you don't have X, I understand why, if you wouldn't want it, because I see some really stupid shit over there that makes me think about, why did I do this? But that's probably the best way to know what I will when I'll be posting and everything like that. I'm going to have hopefully a more regular schedule here soon. I don't see any reason at the moment, depending on when I start my new job, that I wouldn't be able to do landfall hour and damage report for Game 5. So we'll see. Levy Leto says, really impressed by the crowd cheering our PK for the kill after letting 1 in 3 on 5. I don't see that happening in another building, but it seemed to give guys a lot of energy. One thing I've noticed about in Carolina, there is and maybe this goes back to when guys like Brenda Moore and LaRose and Sean Hill were playing, there seems to be a really, really great appreciation for effort, will over skill, grinder type of players, really defensively competent players. If you want to talk about in modern times, there's a lot of people who love Jacob Slavin, Jordan Martin, guys who don't put up a ton of points, but they play really good on the defensive side of things. And it seems like that in Carolina, there's a greater appreciation for really good defensive players who don't put up a ton of points. Now, granted, Brenda Moore did put up a lot of points when he played. LaRose, not so much. But there seems like that there's like a really great appreciation for players like that, and they appreciate really good defense and really good penalty killing and everything. If you go to Minnesota, I don't think you'll see as many people wearing Jonas Brodin sweaters as you will see Lenovo Center wearing Jacob Slavin sweaters. Same thing if you go to Dallas and it's Esa Lindell, or if you go to Long Island and it's Adam Pelech. I don't think that there's a shutdown defenseman more popular amongst his own fan base than Jacob Slavin. I just think that that's something that's kind of unique to our fan base, is that they have such a love for defensive players, grinders, depth forwards. I think that there's just something that Carolina fans love about those types of players, because I know I'm the same way. Like, the first star player, quote unquote, that I got on a sweater was Aho, because before that I had Tuomo Ruutu. Let's see. I'm trying to remember who all I got, because they're all in that closet right there. My first Kane sweater of this era, like of the making the playoffs era, is one of the red ones with Justin Williams. I got his name on it because he's one of my favorite players of all time. He's my second favorite winger of all time to 12MAY2025. Let's see. Then I've got Slavin on one of my 25ths. My other 25th is my Aho one there. But like the first two star players I ever got was Aho and Slavin. Before that, I got Kokaniemi, Derek Stepan. Like I'm one of those guys that I like the kind of unsung type of player like that. So I think that us as a fan base generally have an appreciation for those types of players. Ones that may not stand out on the national stage. But now a lot of people know who Jacob Slavin is thanks to the Four Nations face-off. And should we advance past this round, I think that more people are really going to start to take note of him because he's going to be important regardless of who we would play in the future should we advance past this round. But yes, Levy, I know what you mean. I'm really impressed with the fact that we have such a great appreciation for defense amongst our fan base, whether it's a guy like Martinook or a guy like Jacob Slavin. There is a great appreciation for Chatfield as well, even though there's that one idiot out there who's always talking shit about him. But yeah, that's definitely a thing amongst our fans. J-Dub says, in regards to Svechnikov, he's hit at least 7 posts, LOL, and thanks for mentioning that. I was also unsure about Svech's future here until he finally showed up. Yes, I'm very happy with Svechnikov right now. I cannot fathom the idea of him leaving at this point. Dylan Bollinger says, finally got your walk. Oh, yeah, we talked about that one already, but we didn't talk about this one yet. Slavin, Walker, Nikishin, and to be decided Ghost with Chatty. So here's what I think could potentially happen with that. I'm actually glad that this got brought up. I am of the mind that Orlov is coming back to help Nikishin integrate. I don't think he's going to get paid $7.75 million again. If he did, I'd be pissed. I think that he's going to come back for hopefully 4 or less at the most for a 1 or 2 year deal to help Nikishin integrate. Now, what I think that they'll do with that is maybe Rod will finally allow 2 left-handed guys to play on the same pair, and you can put Nikishin with Orlov and help him integrate because Nikishin has stated Orlov is like his favorite player anyway. So that would really help him adapt to North America and integrate with the team. Like, I don't think he's going to have too many problems with that regardless, but that will streamline that process and make it easier. So what I do legitimately think is going to happen, and I think Orlov's been good lately, I legitimately think that they're going to bring Orlov back to play with Nikishin. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Dima and Sasha are going to play together because Orlov can play the right side of the ice. And honestly, I think he's better at it. So there's that to consider. If they wanted to put Ghost back with Chatfield, I'm totally cool with that. I like that pairing a lot, and then that opens it up to where you can put Walker with Slavin. I've also stated on multiple occasions, I get the feeling that Morrow's going to get traded. I think that they're going to trade him for, something they need more, like a center or add another scoring winger, maybe something like that. But I just don't think that we really need to hoard right-handed defensive prospects with how our pool is. But it also depends on if we move any of our draft capital to make anything happen. Now, one thing that a lot of people disagree with me on, but hear me out on it. I don't think the Hurricane center depth is as much of an issue as people are making it out to be. You have Aho, you have KK, you have Jordo, you have Jankowski. Jordo's not going to play hockey forever. Is Kokaniemi a clear-cut second-line center? No. But he does everything that Jordan Stahl does already. He's just going to have to start killing penalties, and you'll get a little bit more offense ultimately out of Kokaniemi than you will out of Jordo in the long run, you would hope. So I would rather get the scoring from elsewhere, like if you bring in Marner, Nyes, Besser, Ehlers, whatever name you want to throw out there, and leave the center depth alone for the time being. Then that gives you 2 years to either draft and develop one, trade for a prospect that you can then develop, or however you want to solve that problem. But it's not something that I think is that bad of a problem. I really don't. If you get the goals from elsewhere, who cares? KK's playing fine. Jordo, we already know what he brings to the table, and Jankowski's great. So I think that you stick with that center depth right now and just don't rock the boat too much. You're already going to be potentially bringing in a bunch of new guys in the offseason here. I would personally leave the center depth alone. I'm not saying it's a non-issue, but I'm just saying that I don't think it needs to be solved. It doesn't need to be at the top of the front office's priority list, in my opinion. I think that we're fine with what we have there. Is it the most ideal situation? No, but every team has flaws of some sort. Every system has flaws of some sort. But a team that has Aho as the first line center, fill in the blank for the second, KK for the third, and Jankowski for the fourth potentially, then that's good center depth to just slot in that second guy, whoever that is. I already know a lot of people say someone like Tage Thompson or Dylan Larkin. I would love to have either one of those guys, but I don't know if their respective organizations would give them up. But imagine this. We'll just use Tage Thompson as an example, since a right-handed center would be better, and I think that he would be a perfect fit in the system here. If you have Aho, Tage Thompson, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and Mark Jankowski as your centers in a couple of seasons, you got nothing to be upset about. And KK's contract, while it didn't look good before, that's going to be the going rate for a third-line center here in a couple of seasons. So when Carolina signed that contract for Jesperi Kotkaniemi, they accomplished potentially two things, or a spectrum of two things, we'll say. Either one, you get a good second-line center at a bargain, or you get a third-line center that's really good ahead of the curve. So even if he didn't develop into that second-line center, which I don't think anybody's arguing that he still is, I still think he's a great player. I don't think he's a definitive 2C on a competitive team, but you still got ahead of another issue. If you trade KK now for a third-line center, then what are you going to do when Jordo retires? Then you just created yourself another problem. It's something that's going to sort itself out if you stick with what you've got. That's just my opinion on it. I know a lot of people don't like KK. I love the kid. I think he's great. But there's not much I would move him for, considering what role he's going to play. And then also we have to consider, and this is something I want to put slides together and talk about as well. At one point in time, Jordan Staal was considered to have one of on his previous contract, it was considered one of the worst valued contracts in the National Hockey League. But then when the team got better and we started bringing in more guys, like we brought in Aho, Walmark, Trocheck, whatever, era you want to look at, because Jordo's been here forever, basically, since he got traded from Pittsburgh. I think that when he finally didn't have to be the guy that was trying to carry the top line, when he got to go to be the second line center and then eventually the third, he flourished in that role. And then he became the captain. I'm not saying KK is going to be the captain one day or anything like that. What I am saying is that KK will eventually get into that role, and he will become a lot more important of a player than people realize right now. I think that he's on a similar career path to Jordo in that regard. And that's why I think that we should keep him before we were to move Jankowski. Or I would rather move Jankowski than him. And don't get me wrong, I like Jankowski, but a utilitarian third-line center is a lot harder to replace than a fourth-line center, albeit Jankowski is a good one. If we move on from KK now to get a second-line center, we're going to have to figure out what to do about a third-line center in a couple of seasons. We're creating more problems that way, if you ask me. Will Park says, my Walker jersey is ordered as of last night. He's been good all season, but he's really impressed me in this playoff run so far. So, like, when everyone was having their free agency, oh, my God, this is the end of the Carolina Hurricanes. They're going to move back to Hartford, blah, 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 blah shit going on. I remember I posted something that said, hey, guys, it's 12:30 on July 1st. Calm the fuck down. We're going to be fine. And then later it came out that day that we got Walker and then we got Gostisbehere. And I'm like, okay, I think those two guys are going to play together because they want a dangerous offensive zone pair that creates a lot of puck possession, can get a lot of shots through, and drive a lot of offense. Both those guys, they're pretty good at doing the offensive zone retention thing and pinching at the right times and all that type of stuff. That's what they went and got them for. And if you ask me, I think our defense is better now than it was last season. And as I've told people in the past, I liked Pesce, I liked Shea. But price point aside, I still think that we made the right decisions moving on from them, because everything is on a decline 100% of the time of some sort or another. Shea and Pesce, that pair had ran its course. It was not going to continue to be as good as it was. That's just the way it is. Craigford, the huge Caniac, says, Taylor said he read the play. He knew Walker would clear and Rosie would hit him up with the pass. That works for me. Human Circus says, woo, 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 go Canes. I agree. Devil's Joint asks, okay, that's y'all talking. All right. When Jarvie got his penalty, I should have bet for him to score one. I just knew he would after that. Evan Smith, what's up, buddy? I didn't get notified either. Yeah, it's weird. It's I don't even talk about politics or anything like that, and I still get shadow banned for some reason. I don't know why the hell that happens. Dylan Bollinger says Miro back in for Dallas. The Jets are screwed. The Stars are healthy. Yeah, that's not good for them if Miro Haskinen's coming back, and if he's not coming back early, if he's not running the risk of re-aggravating whatever was wrong with him, then yeah, the Jets are in deep shit with Miro Heiskanen. Miro Heiskanen is the best legitimate two-way defenseman in the league other than Cale Makar, if you ask me. Like, as far as like someone who's like almost 50-50 good at both ends of the ice, who has a very balanced game, Miro Heiskanen is that guy. There's times where it warrants a discussion if how close he actually is to Makar, if you ask me. Devil's Joint said that some shit. Stankoven has been awesome. Yes, he has. I have been very happy with Logan Stankoven's game, and he's still young too. Travis C says, are you keeping an eye on Leafs versus Cats series? What do you think so far? Yes, I have been keeping an eye on that. I don't want to talk too much about this yet because Carolina still has to win this series with Washington. Everything looks good right now, but it ain't over yet. Don't count, it's like job's not done. That being said, Florida, I don't think beats us in 2023 if it wasn't for Bobrovsky doing what he did, because that performance that he had was amazing. Credit to the team in front of him for not letting it go to waste and scoring enough to, execute the 4-goal sweep. But if you take Bobrovsky out of that equation, that series isn't even close. Carolina sweeps them. I don't know if he's performing as well right now. The Leafs, if we were to play against them, I see our penalty kill eating their top power play unit alive because they use 5 forwards. They have Marner quarterbacking the top of it. Now, that's not to say that Marner's not good at that, because he is. However, I think that special teams wise, we would get such a big net positive off of shutting down their first power play unit that in special teams, we would eat them alive. If you're talking 5-on-5, Toronto's top 6 is absolutely nasty. But I think if you start factoring depth in, and especially if it's a long series, Carolina would be better. Florida is not too dissimilar of a team from how Carolina plays. It would come down to Carolina and Florida both executing their respective very similar styles and who does it better. If Bobrovsky is not playing well, I think Carolina could take Florida. If Carolina's penalty kill continues to do what it's doing, I think Carolina could beat Toronto. If they continue to do the stuff they do defensively, if they shut down Toronto's top 6, particularly Marner, Matthews, Nye, so on and so forth, I think Carolina could win that series. Now, either opponent, I don't expect Carolina to beat them in any less than 7 games. But if it turns into a war of attrition through speed, Carolina could take either one of them, if you ask me. Devil's Joint says Panthers versus Dallas SCF. I could totally see that happening. I absolutely could see that. Kung Fu Hockey Jams, yeah. I'm going to talk. So actually, I'll take a quick second to talk about this. So the reason that I have this song in there, one, it's an actual like copyright free track. It's called, I think it's called Warzone by Amino Domini or something like that. I don't remember. So the reason that I have that track, actually, I was going through looking for footage for the 6 Dimensions of Jacob Slavin, the first part of it that I did. And there was a guy who made a video on, I think it's called Virtual Hockey Scout. And I went in the comment section and I said, hey, do you mind if I use this footage for a project of mine? And he said, yeah, sure. Because even though it's the NHL's footage, when someone else takes the time to clip it, I at least want to ask them to use it and then give them credit. And he had this song in there, and I was like, that really kind of fits really well. So I just kind of threw it on with one of my GoPro tracks, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Devil's Joint says, no offense, I just love that matchup, but I'd also like to see the Canes go to the finals. I appreciate that. Damn, man, did you even wipe? No, that's actually not what I was doing, believe it or not. It happens often in any rink in reference to the boards coming apart. Yes. Yeah, that'll do it. J-Dub says, hopefully this is Burns' farewell tour in Carolina. I hope to God that there's no way they can bring him back. I can understand the rationale of bringing Orlov back on less money. Burns cannot come back. I'm sorry, that can't happen. I'm glad he's playing well right now, but we cannot afford to take that chance again. No, that needs to be done. Will Park says Walker jersey was 230. Yeah, that's going to be my next one, I think, too. Like, I tend to get a lot of defense. So most of my sweaters are defensemen and two-way centers. So that's why I've got, let's see, the only wingers I have are Rutu and Williams. Centers I have Aho, KK, Rod. Trying to think, I've got two Aho ones actually. Defenseman, I guess you can count Stepan, even though he played mostly wing in Carolina. I got that because I have the same haircut and the beard, and we wear the same number, and it was kind of a joke between me and my dad when I got that put on my reverse retro. D'Angelo, Slavin, Nikishin will be coming soon, and yeah, most of my sweaters are centers and defensemen. Levy says it would be so beautiful if Burns could go finish up his career with the Sharks in a cup with a cup ring in hand. That would be cool. I want nothing more than to see him win a cup in Carolina. And that's not just because I want Carolina to win. I really do like Burnsy. I really do. But the guy's hung around a lot longer than most people could remotely fathom playing a professional sport of any kind for as long as they have. But it's just, it's a hell of a risk to bring him back. It really is. Should come with a, I can't say that, but yeah. Should come with an autograph. I agree. Yeah. I'd have more jerseys if they weren't so expensive. Yeah, I've been collecting mine slowly over time, but I only have two that I really want right now. Nikishin and Walker. That's going to be my next two, but that's a ways off. And I found a couple on eBay I'm thinking about buying, and there's one that's the Adidas white one that I think that I was thinking about getting another, because I've got a couple more 25th anniversary patches laying around. I was thinking about sending that off to EPS and doing Gossa Spare, but with the 41 on it instead. Lenovo Center next season jersey numbers in the crowd: 20, 24, 37, 74, and 21. Yes. And probably 48. I actually see a lot of people wearing Martinook sweaters. I've got Aho, Natchez, Slavin, and now Walker. That is awesome. Gonna order a Jarvis one soon. Yeah, my dad's got a Jarvis one now. That 21 Nikishin looks so fire. Yeah, 21 is my favorite number if you haven't heard. I have Svech and Nino jerseys and Nikishin next. I'll get Aho when it gets the C stamped on it. Yeah, that's I'm going to get one more Aho one when he becomes the captain. That I will get one more of his. If we kept one, I guess that would be okay. But having Burns and Orlov means my butthole is puckered over 2/3 of the game. Yeah, we've got a Orlov. I understand bringing back, and he's had his moments where he's been this season, but he was also playing through a lot of injuries and shit. But Dima can still play. I'll feel a lot better about him being here than Burns, and there's also the factor of helping Nikishin integrate. I won't order a Nikishin jersey until he gets the first extension. Yeah, I understand the rationale of that, but he actually can't go to free agency. He's I forget what they said it was, but he's like an exclusive rights player or something like that. So basically, he's not even going to be a traditional RFA or anything like that. Dylan Bollinger says center depth great of Janko is on the team next season. Robinson, Rose, Yost, Burns gone next season. If we bring the dough up, no room for anyone else. Let's see. So if Robinson's gone, which I'm afraid he is now, even though I wanted him to stay, Roslovic was never going to stay. Jost was never going to stay. Burns, I'm hoping he's gone. Then after that, you're going into free agency and getting at least one winger in free agency. At least one. So there's that to consider as well. That's why it's like, I don't think we need to tweak the team a ton. But if we add a top six forward, preferably, if you ask me, Matthew Nyes, if we add a top six forward, we're in good shape. It's like people talk about addressing the goaltending situation, which we partially did because it was better to sign Freddie for a season because that's a low risk thing. It was better to sign him for 1 year than to let him walk. It was lower risk to keep him than to try and explore the goalie market, because the goalie market fucking sucks right now. Like it's never good. It's always bad. But right now, it is awful. Levy Lato says Scott Morrow is a promising guy, but it's true he's kind of excess to our needs. It doesn't really help to hoard all the good D-men in the world in one org. I just hope we get a good return if we trade. Yeah. Dylan Bollinger says Legault, Charles Alexis Legault, Dominic Fensori, Nystrom, Badinka. We can afford to trade Morrow for Tage. Yes, I would. To make something like that happen, I would. I definitely see that. Legault is the guy that I'm really. I mean, I like that type of player clearly, but Legault is the guy I'm really excited about. And I'm sitting here like daydreaming in my head 2-3 seasons from now of him and Nikishin being on the same pair and absolutely destroying everybody who tries to enter our zone. Like they just get vaporized like fucking Rorschach at the end of Watchmen every time that they try to enter. Devil's Joint says, I am perma-shadow banned on many accounts I have on YouTube. Yeah. Yes, Heiskanen is definitely number 2. Yeah, as far as two-way defenseman in the league, he's second only to Cale Makar, if you ask me. Dylan Bollinger says, can Nikishin become a Cale and Miro? Unlikely that he gets to be that good, in my opinion. I see more of a Shea Weber, Victor Hedman type of player. A little bit better than those guys. I think that you could maybe have Nikishin being a top 5, maybe a top 3 two-way defenseman in the league. But him being as good as Cale Makar and Miro Heiskanen in their prime, I do not see that happening. That's a tough mountain to climb. Now, is it possible? Yeah. This isn't a player I look at and say that there's zero chance he'll ever be as good as Cale Makar or Miro Heiskanen. But there's people out there saying, oh, he's just another Zadorov. No, the fuck he is not. Nikishin has the potential to at least be a top 5 two-way defenseman in this league. And like I said, I see like a Victor Hedman, Shea Weber type of player is what I see there, with maybe a little bit more physicality than Hedman and a little bit more offense than Shea Weber. But that's the type of player I see. Levi Leto says moving KK would be such a stupid idea. At least as long as Rod stays, I don't see him being nearly as valuable for any other team. So we would never get an equal value back. The guy fits here. Yes, I am totally. Like, I am a big advocate of that. KK has to stay. If they trade him, they will regret it later. Not because he puts up a ton of points, but because he's going to take over Jordo's role on the penalty kill. He's one of the few guys we have that's super physical all the time, and he's a better player defensively than a lot of people give him credit for. And he had to, catch up because Montreal fucked up his development really bad. Devil's Joint says, don't jinx it. Bobo was the Conn Smythe worthy in 23 if they won. Oh, yeah. It's just based on what he did in the conference finals alone. The SJ Sharks deserved a Stanley Cup at some point between 2001 and 2021. Yeah, when they were playing against the Penguins, I was hoping that they would win it that year. And one of the reasons why was I really like Burns. I really like Patrick Marleau, Logan Couture. I liked a lot of those players. So I was that, and I hated Sidney Crosby so much at the time. I've gotten to where I don't hate him so much now. But him, Chris Letang, and Evgeny Malkin were 3 people I just fucking hated. I've gotten to where I'll never like Sidney Crosby. I'll never like him at all. But I do respect him. I respect him a lot. He's an amazing player. He's one of the best that's ever done it. I don't like him, but I respect him. Levi Leto says, Father Time is still undefeated, but Burnsy dragged it to OT. That's a good way to put it. Devil's Joint says, I have 3 Brats, Luke Hughes, Jack Hughes, Hamilton, Cotter, Paula, Heischer, Meyer, Nemec, and Palat. Oh, you got a few former Canes in there. Wrong team. Sorry, guys. I wore my Cam Jansen. Oh, wow. I ain't heard that name in a bit. Cam Jansen rookie jersey today to the dog park. That's cool. What would you send to New Jersey for Jesper Bratt? Y'all ain't giving him up. I'm not even going to entertain any. I don't even know I don't even know where to start with something like that. My hatred of Hughes, the Hughes sisters aside, I would give either one of them up before I gave up Jesper Bratt or Nico Heischer. They really need to give trading Luke a strong consideration because you got Nemec and you got Casey. Like, do you really need him? Like, that's what I would do. Let's have a Devils Canes fan virtual handshake. We will do that soon because I'm only going to be on here about 15 more minutes and I got to get going. But I will show you what email address it's coming from so it doesn't go to your spam folder. I'll message you on X and we will do that in the near future. I promise, buddy. I've been wanting to do that. I've just been busy with other shit. Legault and Nikishin about the same size also, I believe. Yeah, I think Legault's a little bit bigger. J-Dub says, the pink mist defensive pairing Legault and Nikishin. Yeah, dude, that would, oh my God. Oh, I've been daydreaming about that since I watched Charles Alexis Legault play at the Prospect Showcase. I was like, holy shit, this kid is way better than people are realizing. And he's got a pretty clear path to the roster so long as Chatfield isn't extended. Don't get me wrong, I love Chatty, but Legault is someone that we could make a good long-term investment in. Imagine having Heiskanen and Makar on the same team. God forbid. It's like Would they defend well? They wouldn't have to because the other team would never have the puck if those two guys were on the same team. Dylan Ballinger says, I know he didn't play, but to finally see him dress in full uniform out there with everyone else was a cool sight. I think him having to play is coming. I really think him having to play is coming because you're not going to go this deep in the Stanley Cup playoffs without somebody getting injured. So I know I've wanted to see him in the lineup, but I think they've done the right thing by not just up and throwing him into it. But every single day that he's with the team, it's more he's getting acclimated to things. It's more he's learning the language. It's more that he's practicing with them, learning the systems, going over video, whatever it is they're doing with him. Because I guarantee you, if I were a betting man, I would say around the clock they have been doing something with him in preparation to put him in the lineup should the necessity arise. Aliyah Yasmin says, glad to have these lives back. What do you think? Who do you think will play in net in Game 5? Maybe I'm worried. Maybe I'm just worried about Freddie's health. I think Freddie should play. Let's go ahead and get this over with because the way that Florida and Toronto are looking. So Florida and Toronto are 2-2 right now, if I remember correctly. Let me double check myself on that before I rack myself. 2 seconds. Por favor. Stars are up 1-0 on the Jets. Okay, yeah. So the Panthers and Leafs are 2-2. The way that series is trending, so it's at least going to go to 6. I think it's going to go to 7, and I think it's basically going to be Toronto wins tomorrow, Florida wins their next home game, so that way they're 3-3 from home games, and then they're going to have a knockdown drag out in Game 7. Is what I think is going to happen. Here's the thing: if you go ahead and start Freddie in Game 5 and get it over with, one, he's going to have 2 days off this time before Game 5. So there's that. If you go ahead and play him now and hurry up and end the series, you have a better chance of guaranteeing that he'll have a few days off before round 3 would start. And there's also one other factor. There's 2 factors with that. One, Toronto and Florida will go to at least 6 games. They could potentially go to 7. So that's a couple of days right there. If Florida wins, especially if it's in 7 games, Carolina will not have to travel they won't have to travel anywhere if Florida wins. But what I'm saying is, best case scenario, let's say if you're talking home ice advantage and time and rest time for Freddie, if Florida wins that series and they win it in 7 games, that's 3 or 4 days that Freddie's already had off. And then on top of that, they don't have to, the Hurricanes wouldn't have to travel to Toronto. They would just stay right there, and games 1 and 2 against Florida would be in Lenovo. So I think the safest bet for Freddie to get an extended amount of rest time is to just go ahead and put him in net and in this series in 5 games. Because the sooner we end it, the better, because I'm surprised it hadn't happened yet. And to their credit, they haven't done it. I was expecting Washington to try and cheap shot and fucking injure people by now, and they've not been doing it. So I'll give them that. So I think it would just be safer for Freddie to just go ahead and play. Let's close this out and be done with it. And then we can start concentrating on whomever we would play next should we advance. Dylan Bollinger says, I like and respect Crosby more than I ever will Ovi. I respect Ovi too. I don't normally like one-dimensional players, but when you have like 900 goals, I guess you're allowed to not play defense because, it's not his fucking job. But yeah, I'm kind of indifferent on that. That's just me. Devil's Joint says, my hatred of the Hughes sisters deeper than anyone's. I despise the circus. I don't know, dude. I hate them pretty fucking bad. When we get to do our stream one day, we will definitely talk about that. Oh, okay, yeah. The Hughes circus has distracted the locker room and everything else. The Devils were never a team built around one star forward. Yeah, I agree. I want them both out. I don't want another Hughes, and it looks like it may happen in the near future. Oh, man, that would cause me some serious hatred if all 3 of the Hughes were on the Devils. Like, oh, boy. Freddie has got to play Game 5. He's on a high horse right now. Yeah, I would put Freddie in for Game 5 if we're up to me. So Slavin, Walker, Nikishin, Legault, Ghost, and in the next 2 or 3 years, yeah, something like that. Either way, our defense is set for a long time, and we've got so many guys that are going to be competing for that 6th spot. Like I like where we're going. I really do. Devil's Joint says, got to roll. Have a good one. Go Canes. Shh, don't tell the Devils fans they already hate me. Well, I don't hate you if that helps. Dylan Bollinger says, I know Nystrom and Badin could get a lot of hype for their future. Yeah. either one of those guys could potentially make this team, along with Charles Alexis Legault. So we're pretty set on defensemen, dude. Like, we really are. That's why it's like, if we brought Orlov back for 2 seasons just to help Nikishin integrate, it's a low risk thing. It really is. And, you know, maybe Rod will let them play on the same pair together, let Nikishin play on the left, Orlov play on the right, or, you know, Nikishin's played on the right side in the Olympics, and he did it a little bit in SKA, and he did it a decent amount in Spartak Moscow, actually. So, like, he can do it. He's got some experience there. It's different to learn how to do it at the NHL level. It really is. But I definitely believe that if he needed to play the right side, he could. If you put Nikishin with Slavin, put him on the right, and said, you go possess the puck, you go generate the offense, you create rushes, you create chances, and Jacob Slavin, you continue to do everything that you've been doing your entire career, I think that could work out really well too. So not only is this defense good, the future of this defense good, the amount of options that you can do with it to optimize it are through the roof. Like, we're in a good spot. Aaliyah Yasmin says, I don't understand why the Hughes bros are so famous. I don't either. Here's the thing about it. I don't really hate them as much as I hate their weird, following that they have. And it gets to the point where it's, and Devil's Joint will tell you the same thing, because there's certain things him and I know about that we're not going to elaborate about on this stream, that how deep the obsession and the stalkerish behavior around them goes. We've got a few of our own in this fan base, particularly in regards to Svechnikov, it seems. But there's nothing wrong with liking a player or thinking a player is attractive or anything like that. What is wrong is when you start stalking them and making your entire life about them, and that's where it's a problem. That's where I have an issue with it, regardless of who it's about or why they're doing it. And it seems to be directed towards certain players. The Hughes brothers, Trevor Zegras, and Connor Bedard in particular seem to be like the guys that, and it's not anything they're asking for, but there does seem to be this weird obsession with them on the internet. And it's not even like, haha, look at this cute meme, haha. It's like they literally stalk these motherfuckers. Like, I've seen some really weird posts, like them talking about how they're going to. There was one person, she got banned. I saw it on X. I remember it. I wish I'd taken a screenshot of it. Devil's Joint might have it. Where there was one person who said that she was going to force Jack Hughes to impregnate her against his will. That shit's not normal. So my dislike of them is not really them. Like, I don't like them as players. I don't know anything about them as people. But there seems to be like this weird obsession with them. I don't know why. But if I were them, I would have a blanket restraining order against everybody who had a picture of me in their profile. Something strange about that. I don't get it. I just don't understand it. Like, I remember, like, yeah, there's Devil's Joint. I'm not going to put that up on the screen, but y'all know which one I'm talking about. Like, that type of weird shit goes on, and it's borderline scary, some of the fantasies that they have about people they've never even met. And I think it's wrong. I really do. If dudes were saying that about I would say the same thing if men were saying the same thing about, like, the U.S. women's team or something like that, or any of the PWHL teams. I'd be like, bro, that's disgusting. Don't do that. That's gross. Don't do that. Yeah. There's a bunch of weird shit that goes on with that, and no one can explain why. Like, I've got a friend who's a clinical psychologist. I talked to him about it, and he's like, yeah, this is a weird one. He's actually helping me, like, write a book. I don't know if I'm ever actually going to go through with it, but it's a phenomenon to me. It's very strange. It's not healthy. It cannot be healthy. Get a dog. I'm telling you, it will be good for you, bro. Just y'all doing that out there, get a fucking pet. I have a pet. He's laying down here. All right, everybody. I'm going to finish up the last of these comments here, and then I'm going to call it a night myself, because I got to put my gear back in my bag and get ready to go skate again tomorrow, because I'm only going to get to do it a couple more days. Dylan Baldinger says, only thing I've seen of Legault preseason fight where he skated off covered in blood. Yeah, when he fought McCarron. Yeah. Aaliyah Yasmin says Zegras is so random. Yeah, and he's not nearly as good of a player as a lot of people think he is. Trick shot artist. I'm sorry, but he is. It's Def Zegras. I can't say that other one. I'm sorry. Sorry, Devils joint. They were nuts on me when I made that photo of Jack bald. Well, statistically speaking, the odds of him keeping his hair are not in his favor. Speaking from experience, and I had some really thick ass hair, bro. Like, if you ever saw old pictures of me, I had some crazy ass hair. Dylan Bollinger says Jets just sided at the start of the second. Yeah, I'm going to watch the third here in a little bit. Lee Yasmin says, WTF, that's insane. Why can't they like things normally? LMAO. Yeah, I don't get that. I just don't. I would say the same thing if like dudes were saying it about the PWHL players. Like that, it's weird. There's nothing wrong with saying I think that this person is hot or whatever, but like when you start, doing shit like what's been discussed here, that's no. Get off the Epstein list. Stop that shit. Levy Lato says, wait, I haven't heard anything about this before, probably since I'm in Europe. That's definitely not something I expected to learn about when I woke up this morning. Bro, it's bad. If you spend enough time on X, which I'm actually going to be spending a little bit less time on there for a multitude of reasons. One, I plan on having my own website. I'm going to sit down and work on that sometime in the next few days, actually. That's one thing. And two, ever since I moved away from the Northern Virginia, DC, Washington metro area, and I'm down here back in my element in South Carolina, I like going outside. I was out walking my dog in the rain the other day, and it didn't bother me at all. It's more like a tropical-ish type of rain down here in the low country. So I like going outside even when it's cloudy and when it's raining and everything like that. I've just been going around, checking out the surrounding areas and everything like that. I've been getting ice time again because I didn't skate for a while because Northern Virginia, I got to the point where I just didn't like playing up there. So I quit playing beer leagues entirely. There was a pickup that I played in, but I didn't renew playing in it because we were getting ready to move. And I just kind of hit a stick and shoot when I could. But lately I've been going to skate and getting some ice time in, and I feel pretty good. And a couple of people have asked me about coming onto their teams, and I'm like, yeah, I will eventually, but I want to start working first and doing stuff like that. But I really enjoy being down here, and I'm going to be on the computer less ultimately. That's why over the course of the off season, I want to come up with a standardized format for all my shows. And eventually what I really want to do is get a second monitor that'll make editing and stuff like that significantly faster. But for the most part, like, I'm really happy doing other things. Like, don't get me wrong, the channel's not going away or anything like that. I love all this stuff, but I'm getting to do other things that I enjoy now that I've been wanting to do for a long time that I couldn't do when I lived up there. So that's one thing. And I'm really happy about that. Levy, excuse me, Aaliyah Yasmin says, get a hobby. Yeah, I don't know if hobbies would save them, though. If you want to see the Balls Hughes photo, it's hilarious. I put it in my post section on my page here. Yeah, I'm going to check that out. I can only imagine what type of heat you caught for that. LOL, would love to see Jack bald. We've got a warning take head reveal. Yeah. I've actually, if you go on X and if you scroll back for it, I think it's in my highlighted posts. There's one where, you know what? Give me a second. Here, I'll tell you what. Hold on. I'll see if I can pull it up on the screen here. Holy shit, I got a lot of notifications. Fuck. Give me 1 second. I'll see if I can find it. Where is it? They're trying to figure out how to. Okay, I'll tag you in it later on X if I can. Actually, I'll just tag you in it right now. Hold on, if I can find it. Yeah, I'll tag you in it later when I can find it. But let me pull this back up here. But yeah, no, it's there's a couple of pictures on there with that. But yeah. Devil's Joint says, haha, I got lucky, man. My helmets were full of hair dye. Yeah, I never really I only dyed mine twice when I had it, and it wasn't any like thing drastic because I was in the military, so I couldn't get away with like dyeing my hair. I would like subtly change the color of it a couple of times to the point where like I wouldn't get in trouble for it and anything, and I had to have it short back then anyway. Luckily, I've got this because I don't ever want to see myself without a beard again. The one time I shaved my entire beard off, my girlfriend, we'd been together for about a year and some change at that point, and she was like, I don't like this, don't do it again. And like multiple people that had never seen me like clean shaven, they were like, yeah, don't ever do that again. You don't look right without a beard. So that's but I still have it all. Yeah, I don't get me wrong, I'd rather have it than not, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's like a lot of people get really upset about that. And I was when I was younger, and I was like, nothing I can do about it. It is extremely bad. A lot of OD of those nuts have blocked me. Yeah, it's a strange thing. It's a strange thing. I know I'm doing something when those people block me, and I have no idea who they are. Yeah, I'm wearing a Bauer hat right now. I had a Bauer hat that I really liked. It was black, had the regular old word mark on it, and it had a red trim around it. So it was very, very Canes like, and it just got to the point where I wore it out so bad that I was just like, I gave it to a little kid or something. I don't remember. J-Dub says, have a good night, Brandon. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it, and thank you for all the support for the channel and everything. And that goes for all of you. Padding in my helmets were blue, red, and green and smelled like pasta. Everyone, thank you very much for joining me. This has been a good evening. I will do my best to do landfall hour and damage report for Game 5. It all depends on when I start my part-time job that I have coming up, and then we will go from there. Job's not done. If they play Game 5 the way that they played Game 1, the job will get done, I believe. So, everybody, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your dinner. Have a good night.